What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. Happy New Year to everyone. 2022 is going to be an exciting new time. Uh, and by exciting, that can mean a lot of things. So, with that in mind, let's talk about what has recently happened. And an admission by the doctor here, whose name will not be mentioned. But he makes some startling admissions that I believe makes you want to ask a lot of questions. Aside from that, you also see that the CDC talking about, and I did a video on this talking about the PCR test. So here, this article says, for the past 18 months, we've reported how a large percentage of those that have been in the hospital with the C19 were actually admitted for other ailments, only to test positive after admission during routine screening, meaning that these hospitalizations for the purposes of policymaking and fear-mongering were vastly overstated in many, if not most cases. So this is the article writing here. Public health officials have largely avoided this important distinction while pushing this false narrative over hospitalizations until now. And he clearly, if you haven't seen this video, take a listen.
But the other important thing is that if you look at the children who are hospitalized, many of them are hospitalized with COVID as opposed to because of COVID.
There you have it. And here, he made that distinction. So you ask the question, if children are being categorized as being hospitalized with this cerveza sickness, as opposed to because of it, then are numbers being inflated? Not just for children, but for adults? And that leads to the next question. Have deaths been counted the same exact way? I'm just asking the question. And this is the guy who's leading the charge on this. It says, quote, and what we mean by that, if a child goes into the hospital, they automatically get tested for the sickness and they get counted as a sickness hospitalized individual, when in fact they may have gone in for a different ailment, right? So essentially what would be happening is you are misrepresenting the number of people that have gone to the hospital because of the sickness, as opposed to the people who have gone in for other ailments but already had it or with the sickness. That is a startling and very, very crucial statement. And people who are supporters of this man will go ahead and, come to his defense. And when he's made many statements like this, the benefit of the doubt starts to dwindle. Because initially, when you make statements that are controversial, right? And you ask the question, oh, maybe it was his first time. Maybe he, it's okay. We'll give him a pass. But when you do it time and time again, the benefit of the doubt is gone. And I think this time, along with the admission of these PCR tests from the CDC, there's a lot that these people that are supporters need to think about. And I think that when you consider all the lives affected, not people that they've counted as deaths due to the sickness, but all the lives that have been affected because of the lockdowns and the quarantines, mental health issues, right? Teenagers, kids that have been dealing with the stresses and the measures that these policies have caused. They're being affected. Lives are being drastically changed, have been changed. And this is a startling admission. And I haven't watched the Joe Rogan interview with, the creator or with the doctor. I don't know if you guys have or are keeping track of that, but you know who I'm talking about. He helped with the invention of the mRNA technology, and that's going to be a good 3 hours long worth of content. Which I have already seen some clips. I haven't seen the whole thing in its entirety. But when you're censoring the very person who was crucial to the invention of that technology, who does not have financial incentive to go out and speak against it, is doing it because he says it's the right thing, right? And we see that he's being censored along with other doctors who have a contrasting view to the narrative. When that's being censored, you have to begin to ask questions. Now, you may not be anti-vax, right? But you're against the policies that are affecting people's livelihoods. People will come and discuss and ask you questions. Well, you're okay with, previous medicines. Why is this one different? And that's when you have to be grounded. You have to have principle. You have to have morals, right? You have to understand why you believe what you believe. And I think that when time and time again, the officials that have been leading the charge on this whole pandemic have been saying one thing, but then they change their minds and say the opposite. And it's just a constant thread of lies. That should raise red flags for you. And when you see the censorship of the opposing side, that should raise flags for you. When you see that the data has been skewed, right? And this very admission tells you that it's been skewed. That causes red flags, right? When the deaths are concealed, when people who have received the medicine cannot hold the pharmaceutical companies liable, that raises red flags. When they're trying to force this on children, that raises red flags. And I can keep going here, right? When they say once you reach a certain percentage of herd immunity, okay, we can go back to normal. But then all of a sudden it's, okay, no, we have to reach this next goalpost. That raises red flags. And eventually you start realizing that what's happening, it's not about health. It's not about health. So then you ask yourself, what is happening? What is going on here? And that's when you have to realize what you're going to do. You have to realize why you stand on what you stand, the principles, the morals, the reasons behind your decision to not receive the medicine. And I think what we're going to see in 2022 is a convergence of climate change narratives and this come together. You can already see at the tail end of this year that the climate change narrative is ramping up. And if this, whole pandemic narrative fades into the background, it'll still be around. But it won't be pushed as hard because now you have the other factor, natural disasters, coming into play. So, with that in mind, let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts? This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. And also, Happy New Year, folks. Let's stand together, right, for what we believe, for what's important. I'll see you in the next one.